We're back in episode 4.
Oh, we're just going straight in, are we? Okay.
We're just going straight in.
Damn.
Cold.
The coldest of cold opens. I wasn't even ready. It took me by surprise.
Maybe we'll cut this bit. Maybe not.
We need a cold opener. I've just given you a really good one, John.
You've got better in you. You've got better in you. I know it.
It's fine. Yeah. No, bring up Rhinar, and then we'll do something with that in about 5 minutes. But no, what were we talking about?
Welcome to Energy Potion, a Flesh and Blood podcast where we chat about trying, failing, and sometimes succeeding to play Flesh and Blood as competitively as we can. Please don't like, follow, and subscribe just yet. Wait for the good bits, because it helps the algorithm. You can comment whenever you want though. There are so many great takes to talk about after all. This episode was recorded in front of a live audience at a secret location somewhere in OG Canterbury.
Well, it's only been like 9 days. 9 days since the last one.
Has it?
Yeah, since we recorded the last one. Exactly. It's only been 9 days since we recorded the last one.
Yeah.
And it's been about 3 years in terms of stuff happening.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
We were talking about the ProQuest change.
Yes, that was our opener, talking about the changes to ProQuest Yokohama, and how if you win, that's a big if you win a ProQuest, which I haven't done.
I've never won one. Do you know anyone who's won one?
I know 2 rather insufferable people who have won.
Okay,
ProQuest.
that's probably why I don't know them.
But if you win a ProQuest, you're then restricted from entering further ProQuests in that season.
Yes.
Which a lot of people have opinions about, John, as is usually the case when it comes to children's card games.
Especially, I notice, people who tend to win ProQuest.
Well, yes and no. So a good line that I've seen to go by so far is that if you recognise someone's name on Twitter, they're probably quite upset by this developmental change. And if you don't, they're all for it. Now, I recognise a few names, but I recognise distinctly, well, there are distinctly fewer that I don't, which means, in theory, the vast majority of people are in favour of this change. Now, obviously, there's a multitude of factors that could go into it being a good or a bad change. Do a whole podcast just talking about it, really, the amount of details that could go into it. But as a general rule, telling people they can't play in events, for the most part, is usually bad. You usually want more people playing, not fewer. However, as I said, it's very rare that a multitude of people are winning events. Well, at all, for one thing, but enough to disqualify them from playing further events. If you look at the amount of ProQuests that are in England as a whole, let alone in our small little corner of England, you're not really losing that many players by the end of a 4-week period, if you consider that maybe there were 12 or so in the lead up.
Well, we would try and get to 4 ProQuests.
I mean, right? Ideally.
So in the worst case scenario, 5 tickets don't get sold across 4 events.
Well, yeah.
Good maths?
Yeah. So, kind of. I can see where you're going with it. But the idea is that, if we all sort our tickets out in advance, which again is one of the actual issues with this, is that you usually have to book your tickets in advance. These events sell out. Say we book all 4 of our tickets for all 4 events, because in Magical Christmas Land, they actually all line up for once, and we get to do 4 weeks back to back. Say, for example, by some miracle, I do win on week 2, and I've got those tickets for weeks 3 and 4. The argument is that, well, now that's one less player for those events, and for smaller stores, more players, even if it's just 1 or 2, is something to talk about. And my counter argument for that is, I'll refund the ticket, but I might still go. I might just still go, and I might record it. I might do something like that. I might just be there as the coach, and do that kind of stuff. This is the thing. The biggest argument I've seen counter argument, I should say, is that, what if I want to go and hang out with my Flesh and Blood friends?
You just go hang out.
I'm being disqualified from that, and it's like
You just go hang out.
you can do that anyway.
Yeah.
No one's stopping you from hanging out with your friends.
This is true. My favourite argument against it is what happens if the person who normally drives me to an event wins.
Yes, Finley did bring this up, and this is probably the most impactful, actually, the most relevant argument.
Because you could lose a whole carload of people that way.
Because yes, John, if you win week 1, I'm in ruins. Financially, I am destitute. I would have to take public transport.
Ugh.
Exactly. That's all. Morale's already shot before we even get there.
Yep.
Bank depleted. Dreams of the Switch 2 gone.
If you're going to Darksphere, your ears are shot from that tube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is before we even factored in that I have to buy every single Brute and Guardian card from the new set.
And some new sleeves, because it's a major event.
Well, probably. But yeah, I could probably find some new sleeves.
I think the thing that actually upsets me the most is the lack of context. And this is the theme everywhere, right? There's a lack of context around it.
It is and it isn't. So obviously it was released in a retailer doc. So I saw it because obviously having worked, I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, John.
Yep.
At our local.
You're big in the community.
I'm huge on community. But I saw it, just reading it, on the loo in the morning before work, as you do. So to see everyone else like talking about it, it's like, wow, how did they get a hold of it? Like, why were they reading the retailer docs? And I'd seen obviously it blown up on Twitter. This is like the earliest document we're going to get for this season, which obviously isn't till October. They will release something about it in a little bit. Like, they're probably still like on the way back from Singapore. Like they're still literally like in transit before they even think about doing anything else.
But I think it's an interesting lesson for LSS because LSS, Flesh and Blood, is the TCG that I think cares the most about its ecosystem, its players, its LGSs, its competitive events. It does things because they make sense for the ecosystem, not necessarily. Well, the gamblers, the ecosystem makes sense financially, right? It's not a short-term game piece. And so for them, and sometimes they're late to the party discussing their decisions. That's why they do the dev talks. But I think this is a bit of a miss for them to come out with something like this and not have put more context around it in advance. I think it's a lesson for them to learn going forward.
Well,
the players, we're almost spoiled as TCG players. They can't get away with the stuff that other TCGs might get away with because other TCGs don't care as much.
Yeah, I mean, a game that at its premise, obviously when it introduced itself, it was a game actively more for the players. It can seem a little bit tone deaf to release this in a retailer doc that most players wouldn't even think to look at, and then just kind of like not elaborate at all. But again, like I said, it came out at time of recording 2 days ago.
Yeah,
I think yesterday, day before. Yeah. In the middle of the week as well. At that, like I would imagine possibly by Friday they may release a more established document. Obviously, the argument is they could have released this as an actual article in itself.
Yeah.
And maybe that's probably what they should have done. But maybe they also didn't think this would have as much of an impact.
And this is the thing. I actually think it doesn't have much of an impact except to some of the loudest voices in the game. That's kind of key here. And as you said, it's the people on Twitter who care because they are some of the loudest voices in the game who are, I'm not saying they're bad people in any way, shape, or form. These are the people who lead the game, lead the community. They are themselves highly competitive, good players, right? There's very few content creators about Flesh and Blood competitive play who aren't themselves good competitive players.
Well, I can think of a YouTube channel quite close to us who is full of bad Flesh and Blood players. But
we should probably advertise them more.
Yeah, it's a great way of doing it.
Help them out.
Yeah, they're all awful.
Yeah, we'll help them out. We'll advertise them some more. It's all right. You'll get some support from us. But they are also the loudest voices, and they're the ones most impacted by this.
But it was very specifically on Twitter, the loud voices against it are also, I don't want to say like known for being loud voices, but they certainly have a reputation as being opinionated.
Well, and the algorithm pushes that as well. Let's not
Precisely,
forget that.
yeah,
The content we're seeing is the content that is controversial, full stop, across all spectrums, and Flesh and Blood is no different, right?
Yep.
It's why we need more hot takes, Toby.
Well, I already play Rhinar. I don't know what more you want. Currently, one of my 3 probably most practiced decks are Rhinar, Katsu, and maybe Gravy. But
I was going to say you need a third one.
it's probably Phi actually. So my God, Renowned Guardian Phi.
Renowned Guardian fight because he appears.
Well, he's on a Guardian
flavor text on the Guardian card.
He's on a Guardian flavor text card. We'll get to spoilers in a little bit. We're discussing something else
fine.
first. Don't jump ahead, John.
Sorry.
You're meant to be the one keeping me in check.
Well,
but
I'm
no,
for spoilers.
I will get to spoilers. I mean, we can discuss them to a degree, but obviously there's going to be more coming is the issue, so it's going to be immediately out of date.
Well, yes.
But no, bringing it back to the decision, the decision to restrict these players. Like I said at the start, I do think it's a multifaceted thing. Like there's multiple reasons I can see why they want to do this. First and foremost, those loud, outspoken players we were talking about just a moment ago, the kinds who would post their tweet at the end of the season saying, I managed to pick up 7 gold foils this ProQuest season. Maybe that isn't what they want. Because whilst obviously they are encouraging the best players to play, and the whole change to ELO and stuff like that was to encourage players to play, and obviously they'll be reworking that again in the hopes of encouraging people to not skip out on events in the fear of losing ELO. A lot of these good players are obviously using these events to supplement, or I guess just develop an income of sorts. Like you win all those gold foils to sell them, and then put them towards playing more events.
And not just to sell them, because the content creation is a valuable asset for some of these people, and that is the business model, right? And not just in Flesh and Blood. It's you win an event, you start a channel. Now we've done this the other way around, but it's coming.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting
Any
day
now. You win the event. You start a content
once.
channel. You get some sponsors who go, "Oh, you're good at this. Let's hear what you have to say about it." Now, obviously, that is part of the model. And so it becomes not just selling the gold foils; it's the content they get to build off, winning PQs.
And obviously, by restricting them from playing these events, you are in theory cutting that off. But then the argument would be that LSS are like, well, we don't really want that being a business model for our players. But there's other avenues and such. Like, for example, if you're the kind of player who can afford to go to 7 ProQuests across 4 weeks, go to a Battle Hardened. Go to a Calling. They're all over the place.
Which, as competitive players, we have discussed in preparing for some of these metas in the past, is some of these top players local to us, maybe not that local, but we've gone, ooh, maybe this event is a really good one to go to because there's a competing Calling or Battle Hardened in a nearby country, and there's a handful of top players locally, some of whom are very high on the Pro Tour leaderboard, who we are fairly sure won't be there at that event because they'll be at the bigger event.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you've got a lot of very strong players in and around the London area who would obviously usually be expected to go to these London ProQuests and maybe even creep down to ours a little bit further afield. But again, like you were saying, if there is a bigger event, a slightly higher stakes event, there's usually the argument that these players want to actually test themselves and perhaps want the bigger prize pool that comes with a bigger event, and will be there instead. And for the most part, that's usually the case. I mean, to name drop one, there's a high chance that if there's an event in the Americas or further in Europe, Jacob Clements is probably going to be there instead of playing at ProQuest.
Other excellent players are available in the London area.
Precisely, but as a fine example of someone who I believe is currently second or third on the on
yes,
the world ranking
definitely
board,
in the top 3.
Jacob is a good example of one.
I've played him a few times and he has utterly wiped the floor with me every time, no matter the deck.
I think I'm 0-1 to Jacob, but it was a close one.
None of mine were close. Not even.
But that's the argument, right? The argument is that if you're saying, oh well, I'm being excluded from playing these more competitive events, well, there are more competitive events to play, and obviously the counter argument to that is a lot of these players who are, like, for lack of a better phrase, farming these events for gold foils, are testing with their own team for the most part anyway. A lot of these players aren't even going to their armories. They're not supporting their local player bases, not supporting their local stores. So the argument for, you're killing local player bases by not letting people turn up to their ProQuest is a little bit facetious.
This is true. How many full stop people who have ever attended a Dice Armory have won a Dice ProQuest?
None.
Yeah. Case in point, right? Case in point. And let's be clear, our competitive player base is pretty good.
I mean, for what it's worth, we've won other ProQuests. it's just particularly our own one.
Fly the flag. Fly the flag.
But obviously, what you're forgetting to add, John, is that obviously this season is the one we're going to win it. So
that's why we've started a content channel, because
ready
for the big wins.
Yeah, I mean, I have actually already said that this time I suppose I should win it. So
and LSS, if you want to chuck us 5k, by the way, that's absolutely fine. We can make that work.
Oh goodness, wouldn't
we
it be
can
funny?
fit that into our plans somehow.
We release 5 rather haphazard podcast episodes.
My current plan is that I get to drink a lot of coffee and I get to send Toby as our correspondent around the world.
Yeah, I'm going to take that. Take it every day of the week. I'll just start booking every Friday off.
Yep.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, as a little shoehorn into that, I obviously do think that's a fantastic initiative for them. I think, I think content for card games and games as a whole, but tabletop card games, trading card games, it is the single-handedly easiest and most efficient way of growing your player base, is to make it very, very findable and very, very enjoyable in a visual medium. Like, again, if you're playing a card game at a store and someone comes over and says, "This is a cool looking card game, what's it like?" and I give them the usual spiel, and then they say, "Cool, is there anywhere I can see this?" and you go, "Well, there's a few content creators on YouTube, but for the most part, no." You had them and then you lost them. Whereas for Fab, we already have quite a few notable content creators, like, in the field and such.
Yep.
And obviously LSS's actual in-house production team is fantastic, and obviously getting even stronger with the recent acquisition of Savage Feats as well. But again, we want to go from strength to strength. You want to develop it. You want to go further and further.
And it's hard to get into, right? As we've seen. There's a price point.
There is a price point.
Invest in some kit.
I mean, we've all been guilty of it. I've clicked on many a video with sub 100 views on YouTube, heard the audio quality, and gone, maybe not today.
No,
it does happen. I feel ashamed.
Obviously, never to us, right?
Well,
we're working on it. Listen to the back catalogue. It improves every week.
Yeah, the Spoon Mic is doing its best as it stands. Developments on the way.
A little bit better. Every week, a little bit better.
Precisely. But again, even with considerably less than 5,000 American dollars, a lot of strides could be taken from any point.
That is my one pushback to LSS is you're giving 5 people 5k, actually giving 10 of us 500.
Well, I'd also argue
to a lot of smaller creators.
If I put on my little conspiracy hat, there's a high chance that they've already chosen the 5 that will be receiving that, and they're just putting this out there.
I still think we're going to shout.
I mean, I'll boot up the Twitter. I'll make a Twitter. We'll see how it goes. If we can get everyone in the group chat to follow it, that's already pretty good.
Yeah.
But again, it's a fantastic initiative, and again, LSS is very multifaceted. There's multiple angles to them now. They're not just this small little indie company. They're a slightly bigger small indie company. They're doing lots of different things at the same time. While they may falter with something like an announcement that maybe should have been more of an announcement, they go to strengths with this $5,000 potential grant for content creators. And obviously, the game itself, because at its heart, that's what it is. It is a trading card game. Is playing very well.
Yes. I'm here because I think James White is taking us in a good direction.
He's doing good.
It's not perfect, but it's the best.
Exactly. Like I don't think he has a career in wrestling announcing. I do admit I honor his.
He looks
his
like he enjoys it. He looked like he
had a great time. Maybe we don't quit the day job, Jimmy. But that day job is because he's very good at it.
Yeah.
That's why No other reason. And again, you know that he's good because we're getting a set with 2 Brutes and 2 Guardians in it, and that's obviously what the people want.
More important, if we're talking about keynote stuff now, because we're talking about
we might as well swing back to the keynote, sure.
Frankie?
Yes, I mean, as a renowned cosplayer myself, I'm obviously very excited.
Are we going to see more cosplayers? You know, people in chat have been
quite possibly,
crying it out.
I know there's a lot of people who've been interested in cosplaying for a while. And again, this is just a proof that if you want a card game to be successful, you can have maybe the best card game on the market. You still need to push other avenues.
Yes,
you need to reach out to the casual crowd, reaching out to the cosplayers, obviously reaching out to the content creators, as we said before. And this is another way of doing that. Now, like sunsetting Taylor is fine. It means that all the people who were there from day one now not only have this very rare collector's piece, but it's now even more rare collector's piece because it's going to essentially
and
cut their production.
Yep, collectibles, excellent.
Well. It's the other side of card games, right? You can't remove yourself from it if you want a card games ecosystem and such to thrive and survive. You do need to add this degree of monetary value to it. Some card games do it better than others. Some card games have been doing it longer than others. But again, Flesh and Blood is, as we've said before, not the cheapest game on the market. It is one of the better games on the market. The hope is that more collectibles brings the prices down, all that such. But with something like the Taylor and now the Frankie promo, that's a whole separate thing. And Frankie looks cool. There is that too. All Necromancers look cool. Obviously, the big fear is that we're not getting an actual solo Necromancer, and Frankie is that.
Although there is this trend we've seen where some of these non-CC heroes get a CC release of some sort. Much further down the line when it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, what was the actual
we saw it with KO,
text?
we saw it with Ira.
What was the rules text?
I don't think there's been rules text on Frankie. They just showed the Marvel.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, maybe she gets an actual CC release. It would be nice, but again, with the amount of people complaining about Gravy,
who's complaining about Gravy?
Who indeed, John? Who indeed?
Who's complaining about Gravy?
I think a lot of people are complaining about Gravy, John.
I mean, it was a bit sad watching a Syndra get destroyed on stream. But
well, this is the argument that a lot of people have, John, is that a deck that's supposed to beat Gravy losing to Gravy is a sign of a failure on LSS's part.
I mean, just because you're playing a favoured matchup doesn't mean you should win. Also,
it's actually that simple, isn't it, John?
Yeah,
I mean,
there's no guarantees.
We've had decks for all of Fab's history that have had unfavoured matchups and that have changed their sideboards to accommodate such weaknesses.
Who knew that you could do that in a card game?
It seems a bit unfair, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't I have perfect knowledge of your deck based on watching a few YouTube videos?
True. I mean, the argument is that, like all the illusionists before him, Gravy is very resilient, very robust, and very adaptable. And by virtue of making and being able to use gold, is able to dig himself out of trouble as and when. Now, he's still a deck that folds to incredible pressure. It's still actually a deck that can draw some pretty disastrous hands. And I would like to reiterate, hasn't been around for very long. I would still argue that people really don't know how to play up to Gravy as well as they'd like to.
And we saw that with the last set with Syndra. She was very strong in some early big events as well. It wasn't the small events that she was dominating. It was the big events that she was dominating because
people,
for whatever reason.
Didn't know how to deal with
around
flick knives. They didn't know how to keep people off of master momentum triggers, and then they adapted. And then guess what? The meta game adapted back, and then Syndra comes back. This is how metas are. They are borderline cyclical.
I'm not worried about Gravy. I mean, you know.
Well, no, as Ninja players, we're not worried about Gravy.
But I also don't worry about him in terms of the state of the meta. I don't think he is so broken and busted off the back of just a handful of events.
I mean,
on the Nats, but
he did well. Well, he did well in the first 2 weeks.
He did well in Nats, but he didn't look broken in Nats.
He fell off weeks 3 and 4.
And 2 big events is not out of Syndra.
He did win the Pro Tour, but then your argument is that he won the Pro Tour where half of it is draft.
Yep.
He didn't win the Calling, which is all CC.
Yeah.
What deck did win? Which broken game-disrupting deck did win the Calling, John.
Wasn't a ninja, was it?
It was a ninja, yeah.
Oh, no. Don't ban ninja.
Well, they're not.
Don't take Edge of Autumn away from me.
Well, it wasn't Edge of Autumn. It wasn't Edge of Autumn. It was harmonized Kodachi Ira.
I mean, the good news about Katsu being the way Katsu is I'm never worried about not being able to say Kodachi for one go again.
Well, I could see a world, maybe even soon, John. Maybe with a Guardian and Brute set coming along, it might push it down the line a little bit. But there's a world where Katsu takes Ira's sword, uses it to LL, and then takes his Kodachis with him.
Oh, that would be upsetting.
It would be, but it would be quite funny.
I'll miss Kodachis.
I've been saying for the longest time, Kodachis is one of the most broken weapons in the game. Everyone laughs at me when I say that, but it is.
I mean, I remember my very first game against anyone ever in Flesh and Blood, against Nick. And he did this Kodachi for one go again business with Phi.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that doesn't sound too bad.
Kodachi Phi.
And then I lost in 2 turns.
Well, as is the way.
As is the way for your first ever game of Flesh and Blood.
Against Phi.
Yeah.
No, there's lots to be said about the meta at large. I think it's fine. I think the fact that like a deck like Ira can win a Calling proves that surely the meta isn't that bad. If essentially the queen of all mid range can win a.
Well, it's still a really open meta. You've got Ira, the mid range ninja, winning, but that's a ninja deck which is typically also quite aggro. Ninja towards the aggro side. So ninja, aggro to mid range, good. Gravy, illusionist style play, good. And finally, we're getting some support for Guardian, the Guardian Mastery packs.
Well, and this is the third part of the triangle that brings balance to the force, as it was to say. And it might be generally what a lot of these Gravy doubters maybe don't realise it, but it's what they need. Is that because what Gravy needs is to be attacked from both sides of the metagame, and then he might even feel somewhat weak. So as it stands right now, the list that won the Pro Tour, the list that did well at the Pro Tour, were all incredibly soft to Guardian, which sounds crazy as a board state deck. In theory, they should be rolling Guardians, these AP locked heroes. But by virtue of the way that Guardian works and by virtue of the way that they've designed Gravy, if you don't put the tools in to deal with these decks that can and will block you, you do leave yourself susceptible to fatigue. They're all down to one Whaler Humper deck now, these Gravy decks, if one at all. Which, like I said, leaves them incredibly susceptible to being just blocked out and have their allies cleared by a deck like Victor or, dare I say it, Bravo.
Yep.
I suppose Yar would be a better example as an actual playable Guardian. And also, all Guardians have access to Bast to a Pole, which is a fantastic way of balancing that matchup by saying, look, we're going to give Gravy no weapon because we've decided he doesn't actually need it, but we will give him this compass that essentially lets him play his game plan out, and then we'll give the one card that can actually disrupt that to Guardian, which is good. I think it's correct. It's how it should be. This is one little silver bullet that lets you flip the game on its head. Now, there's a degree of variance in that if you see it in the first 3 turns, the matchup becomes quite favoured, and if you see it in the last 3 turns, then, well, what's the point? But I think with a Guardian Mastery set into a Guardian Brute set, we're going to see, hopefully, enough developments, enough adjustments to let Guardian come back into this metagame and not just obviously attack Gravy, not just attack Syndra, but also have game into everything else, which is kind of the problem it has at the moment.
And they're going to get a new special ability never before seen in Flesh and Blood.
Are they?
Yeah.
If it's Crush, I hate to break it to you, John. We've actually had that one a while, it's just that no one plays it.
Take another turn.
Oh, yeah. You do. Technically, Pleiades has access to Time Walk. Whether or not, put it like this. The first time it's resolved on stream, I think the crowd will go wild. The crowd will cheer. The question then becomes how regularly we see it resolved and whether or not it starts becoming something that the crowd might boo. Now, by virtue of the way that Fab works, it isn't like other card games. Taking an extra turn is obviously still strong, but like if your opponent is drawing up a new defensive hand each time. It's not as backbreaking as, say, I get to swing at you for 12 into I get to swing at you for 12 with no cards to block. And obviously she has to have four auras of suspense leave on the turn that it happens for it to resolve, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Fix that in post, John. But again, it's a lot of hoops to jump through.
You've got to, as Jimmy White says, go on a journey.
Well, this is quite
quest.
a quest this time. But again, we've said multiple times before, looking at heroes, going, well, that looks impossible. There's no way they're going to have to do that. And then you play them and you go, oh, actually, this is quite easy. So maybe this becomes essentially the way to play Pleiades, is you set up this loop and you loop it. I hope that isn't the case, because she seems to have a degree of other interesting factors that she could lean into instead. But again, we've seen nothing essentially from the new set. So we'll work with what we've got.
No, we're still getting mastery pack spoilers.
Well, we are now in the season, and there are some interesting cards from that as well, but nothing.
So we just
jumped at me yet.
Winced hard at that.
We've seen some cards, and I do think they are interesting. But as I said before, I think they are very much sideboard cards currently. Although, at time of recording, we are waiting on seeing the legendary boots that I'm sure will be incredible and definitely better than Civic Steps.
Civic Steps, the accidental hero of Guardian for so long.
Well, it only gets better with Volder, I suppose, to a degree. Although she might play the Civic the headgear that lets them draw a card. Because that's a free Seismic Surge. But no, take an extra turn. Historically pretty good. I will reserve judgment as it stands right now, because I don't know what Pleiades is doing.
No one does.
Yeah.
Although, you know what else I'm going to move to that I don't understand.
Okay.
I didn't understand when I listened to Jimmy White talk about it in the keynote. Still don't understand it.
Sure.
Why is Special Rare back?
Because it's back for one night only, John.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
It's the marketing gimmick.
It's called Super Slam.
Fine.
Super Slam, super rarity. Also, I do think it's good marketing, don't get me wrong, but I also think it is a way for them to shoehorn in, I don't want to say like specialties, but like, think of them like, they're not specs, but like special moves is essentially what I'm looking at them in this set.
I see.
So these are your, like, you know, your wrestler's favorite moves.
So it's flavor and theme rather than anything else.
Well, this whole set seems a lot more top-down flavor and theme. Although the hope is that going from strength to strength, the limited for High Seas being so good, the limited for this set will also be good. But again, we haven't seen anything yet. Like I said, we're going through the set before that spoiler season as it stands.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. In that case, what have we missed? I mean, like, so much has happened.
Yeah, but
at the same time, we get to this point and I go, well, other than helping decide what the play is for Copenhagen, I think it's Ira, by the way.
I don't know if it's Ira, John.
I think it is. I think
Ira is a solid shout. I mean, again, when's Copenhagen? It's not next week, week after.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Roughly.
It's
not next week.
It's not next week.
We've got another episode before then.
Yeah.
To fix the things we say now.
Ira's looking strong. Gravy looks strong. Syndra looks strong. Slippy looks strong. You need a deck that beats all of those.
You do. And that Syndra list in top 8 at Pro Tour, I'm going to go back to
Very
that.
aggressive.
Very aggressive. Now, what I find interesting about that is the approach they took to deck building around what in my head is a deck that could win a Pro Tour or a big event, and a deck that could do well at a big event. And I build my decks to do well at big events because that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But that deck looked like it had higher highs and lower lows than I normally do.
Yeah, either it wins or it goes out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, like, it was a good call on the Syndra players' part, being aware that a lot of these gravy decks were pivoting to tackle the Syndra matchups, to race them, for lack of a better phrase. And so he went, well, if we're going to race, I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to go even more aggressive. I'm going to punish you for even daring to think about racing my mono-red aggro deck. And it worked, evidently, because he finished top seed. Obviously, he drafted very well as well.
Yeah.
This is, again, the other factor of Pro Tours. But you don't get to be first seed unless you also do well in CC. I mean, whether or not that Syndra list is going to be as good going into Copenhagen is a whole different thing. Because, again, if Ira is a good deck, and if it's specifically like Shoma's very defensive flick-flack with the combo blue base
Syndra will struggle.
Syndra is a lot worse.
Yep.
Now, I don't think it's like a wash. I think you can still draw very Ira hands.
Yeah.
and look at a hand that's like 4 reds and 2 of them are 2 blocks and go, I might have just lost. But you, as Ira, are typically able to quite happily relinquish 2 cards to block. Sometimes a D-react, sometimes even a flick-flack, John. To prevent Marsh Trigger and then present a pretty good hand of Kodachi into Disruptive Piece on a breakpoint and run that ad nauseum until the Syndra player gives up.
Yeah.
Ira's fantastic. Syndra's fantastic. Slippy, in theory, is supposed to be unfavored into that kind of deck as well, because obviously Slippy is punishing decks that don't want to block by presenting decent damage and disruption. And Ira says, well, I'm actually quite happy to block and also present good value and disruption my way back. Obviously, Slippy, by virtue of being Brian Gottlieb's favourite special son, being able to play 45 Majestics, he can spike. He can just draw the nuts, which means that even Ira's best defensive hand can't block the bonds for 13 into CNC. But, again, barring any like huge spikes, and I do think in that matchup, probably what Slippy is trying to do is spike. Barring such things, you're looking relatively well positioned. Obviously, you already know that you're pretty decent into Gravy by virtue of being one of the few decks that is quite happy to clear a Rigor Mortis and present the rest of the turn with a Kodachi. And obviously, your weakest matchups in Verdance and Florian, maybe Kano, are sort of pushed to the edge a little bit at the moment, and so aren't as much of a worry. I guess the dark horse is Acilio, in that he is quite susceptible to disruption, but at the same time, you're maybe slow enough that he could just explode you if given enough space.
But he struggles into other things in the meta that are
that's how it works, isn't it, John? Unfortunately, it isn't just one deck versus every deck. All the other decks also play each other.
And by Copenhagen, we'll have all the Guardian Mastery Pack cards.
Well, we'll have them released. We won't have the set, will we?
Not Super Slam.
No. But isn't Guardian Mastery Pack not until...
Oh, okay. Valda's playable, I believe.
Valda's legal. I wouldn't say she's playable, John.
Okay. Fine.
Let me quickly check, actually. Guardian... Yeah, I spelled it right. Let's go. Mastery Pack. £45. That's a good price.
I bet it's only half a box.
Yeah, well, for crack, shuffle, and play, isn't it? So,
true.
August 8th, which, as it stands, is a few weeks from now.
Yeah.
And when's Copenhagen? Is it Battle Hardened?
I thought it was a Calling, wasn't it? It could be Battle Hardened. I have no idea. I just know it's
Copenhagen. I'll put Calling. See what my favourite search engine brings up. It is a Calling.
Ah.
And it is August 22nd. So it's actually ages away.
Yeah.
But yes, okay. Volder will be fully legal. All of Volder's favourite pieces will be legal for that point. So sure, maybe Volder is actually an option for that. Again, until we see more, I can't really say. I do think Guardian's back, John.
Yeah. I'm looking at my my Guardian cards, the handful I own.
All three of them, yeah.
All three of them, and going. Maybe the Jarl Armory deck wasn't such a bad investment after all. I get to play ice cards again.
I think Ice Jarl is more playable after Mastery Set than ever before.
That feels like a very loaded statement.
That being said, I do think Jarl is in terms of like Guardian versus Guardian, Jarl is the worst Guardian. Is the issue. that when it comes to being out-guardianed, Jarl's the most to be out-guardianed. However, into everything else, in theory, Jarl's the best because he gets to present actual disruption.
I'm going to stop there.
Why?
I've
We've got so much to talk about, John.
I got to go.
Just call it in. Just call it in sick.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Energy Potion, a Flesh and Blood podcast. If you liked it, please like and consider subscribing for more. If you disagree with any of these opinions, please let us know in the comments and we will either defend them robustly or completely cave and agree with you. We can't wait to bring you more of this. Thanks again. This podcast was made possible with help from the team at Le Bon Tutu Productions and a special donation from the Cracked Bauble Appreciation Society and their sponsors.